Welcome to the Private Practice Startup Podcast, where we help mental health professionals grow their dream practices and live a life they love. We chat with successful private practitioners, business coaches, and marketing experts, bringing you tons of practice building tips. We invite you to take advantage of our private practice paperwork and our signature marketing e-course. And we have a gift for you. This is the exact methodology we use to create our six-figure private pay practices and have helped many other therapists do the same. Go to privatepracticestartup.com and on the homepage, click the button to download a free copy of your dream private practice playbook. Now on to today's episode.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Private Practice Startup Podcast. Welcome, welcome. I'm excited about today's topic because we're going to be talking about how being a private practice owner forces you to do your own work. We actually have never talked about this topic, so I'm really excited. And our guest today is Liz Higgins, LMFT and founder of Millennial Life Counseling. I'll introduce you to Liz in just a moment, but we hope that you guys joined us last week because Kate and I talked about our favorite topic. You guys had questions about what can make therapist marketing unique. So Kate and I dove in, and we probably could have made that in an hour and a half podcast, but we kept it short, sweet, and simple and talked about some really unique things for therapists that will really help you stand out and make you be memorable. If this is your first time, if you're a first time guest, welcome. We are welcoming you to the Startup Nation family. We're so happy you're here. We like to give our new family members gifts. We're good hostess with the mostesses. Head on over to privatepracticestartup.com and boom, right there on that homepage, you'll see a button where you can get your dream private practice playbook. And this is the exact methodology that Kate and I have used to create our six-figure private practices and helped many therapists just like you do the same. So go ahead and grab that. And if you are a loyal listener, welcome back. So let's chat quickly about Liz. Liz is a licensed couples therapist, clinically trained coach, published writer, speaker, and the host of Millennial Life Podcast. She's incredibly passionate about millennials and their journey toward health and wellness, most of all, and their committed relationships as well. Her work has been featured on platforms including Huffington Post, the New York Times, Elite Daily, Today.com, AAMFT, and more. Welcome, Liz.
Hey, thanks for having me. Oh my gosh, you said so many great things. And I'm like, I'm so honored and excited to be the guest that you have allowed on for this particular topic, because I am like living this stuff right now in my own life. So I'm just so thrilled to have this talk with you about how practice ownership forces you to do your own work. It is so true.
Love it. And I can't wait to talk about it. And that's like a juicy little cliffhanger to get us started. But before we get us started, let's just take a quick moment for our sponsors.
Is managing your practice stressing you out? Try Therapy Notes. It makes billing, notes, scheduling, and telehealth a whole lot easier. Check it out, and you will quickly see why it's rated the highest EHR on Trustpilot with over 1,000 verified customer reviews and an average customer rating of 4.9 or 5 stars. You'll notice the difference from the first day you sign up for the trial. They offer live phone support 7 days a week. So when you have questions, you can quickly reach someone who can help. You are never wasting time looking for answers. If you're coming from another EHR, they make the transition really easy. Therapy Notes will import your client's demographic data free of charge during your trial so you can get going right away. Use the promo code PPS to get your first 2 months for free, or try out Therapy Notes for free, no strings attached, including their very reliable telehealth platform. Make 2021 the best year yet with Therapy Notes. As a therapist, you're probably too preoccupied with your caseload to think about bookkeeping or tax filing. Herd is a bookkeeping and tax platform built specifically for therapists that helps you track and improve your practice's financial health. Regardless of whether you're a seasoned clinician or in the first year of your practice, Herd will help you identify areas for growth and streamline best financial practices for your business. When you sign up, you'll work directly with financial specialists to track your income and expenses, file taxes online, and grow your business. You'll also receive financial insights such as profit and loss statements and personalized monthly reports. Say goodbye to reviewing spreadsheets and guessing your tax deductions or quarterly payments. Focus on your clients, and Herd will take care of the rest. Dr. Katia, a psychologist based in San Francisco, says, "Working with Herd freed up my time to focus on what really matters in my practice. Managing my books is now easy, transparent, and cost-effective. Plans begin at $75 per month and can easily be tailored to fit your business's financial needs. Schedule your first consultation at joinherd.com. That's joinherd.com.
Liz, I know we always get started with how did you come to be a therapist and stuff like that, but I don't know if we want to start there because you just started us off really good with that juicy little what's happening in life right now and you're living it. So where do you want to start?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, I mean, I could kind of start with that because I think that I'm just very much in this place in my life where there's a lot of full circle realizations about myself that I'm acknowledging and really seeing in front of me as I continue to grow and expand. And for those who have never heard of me or don't know me, which I'm sure is like most of your listenership right now, I started out solo in about 2014, very, very on the side, just doing my small private practice while I worked full time at an IOP. And then finally, around 2017, 2018, I was at a place where I was doing the practice full time and really speaking to my ideal clients out there and decided to expand to a group. And I gotta say, there has been nothing quite like that phase of expanding into group practice ownership that has really, really brought my stuff up, if you know what I mean. And I think in a combination of really diving into working one-on-one with incredible business coaches and continuing my own therapy experience, personal therapy, and just continuing to deepen in my therapy skills through incredible trainings, it has all just really come together to create this incredible opportunity for me to truly bridge that gap, I guess, of who I am as an entrepreneur and as a therapist and who I am becoming as Liz Higgins, the unique human that is the only one of her kind. So,
Liz, it's so cool to hear your story and how you started out as a solopreneur and then over the years, as you gained experience, you expanded into a group practice. Tell us a little bit about the dynamics of your group practice now, where you're located, how big your team is, just so we can kind of get a sense of your group practice at this point.
Yeah, sure. So Millennial Life Counseling began in 2018. And part of the story that I'd love to share through how I've grown is that I think it, like I mentioned earlier, it's that soul element of expanding from solo to group where everything kind of changed for me. And I believe now it is because from a business perspective and from an entrepreneur perspective, everything about my business became relational at that point. And so that's when it was no longer just me going forward and calling all the shots and doing things that I wanted to do. I mean, yes, I own the practice, but if you want to have a successful and healthy and thriving practice with a healthy group culture, with everybody kind of being on board with your mission and the things that are working for all, you've got to practice what you know in terms of being relational. So to answer your question, right now, there are 4 of us, and we have an incredible client coordinator, my first employee, and she's been with us almost 2 years. She's incredible. Sarah, I love you if you're listening. But it's the cohesiveness right now of our team. I can't even describe how incredible it feels. It's very exciting to be in that place. But I know that a lot of that is largely because of the mirror work that I had to do with myself of going inward and kind of looking at who I was being as a business owner, as a leader. And this is where, if you want, I can share a little bit about what I've kind of acknowledged about myself related to doing my own work and how that's shown up in my practice.
Absolutely. Let's dive into that. Tell us more.
Yeah, well, I think it's important to share a little bit about my framework as a therapist because, there's many people listening and lots of different ways to do therapy and who we all become as clinicians. So for me, family systems foundation for sure, attachment theory, huge. I've really gone down the path of RLT therapy for couples, which is Terry Real's model, relational life therapy. And it just struck me and resonated so deeply when I read his book, The New Rules of Marriage, and made so much sense. And a lot of connecting, the present day relational issues to the childhood experience, potential childhood wounds and attachment injuries and all that kind of stuff. And that really and truly being relational is an active practice. You never get there. You're never done. And as soon as you feel like you know everything there is to know about your partner or people you're in relationship to, that's the danger zone because we're always growing, and we have to embrace that fact. So RLT has been a really huge piece of my path. And then more recently, I've shifted over into the deeper relational trauma work through the Healing Our Core Issues Institute, which really is derived from a lot of the same stuff as RLT. So it's an incredible blend of similar frameworks, but a lot deeper work into that childhood experience and addressing any kind of less than ideal relational experiences growing up, and really facing those things and looking at the role that you started to take on in your family system. And I've certainly learned of these things here and there throughout grad school, but really deepening into this work has been such a game changer for me, because I recognize those different parts of myself, and I have a lot more clarity and awareness of when, you know, my adaptive child, as Terry Real would call it, or inner child, whatever, is steering the ship versus my functional adult self. And I've had to really, you know, come to terms with that and name that and learn to kind of nurture that part of myself, because I will, you know, rep the hero children. Like, I can be a hero child for sure. That's definitely the role that I shifted into. And if anybody's, you know, listening and knows what I'm talking about, it's like hero child, lost child, scapegoat. Those are kind of the typical three roles that you might take on in a system. And I was just that one. I was a people pleaser. I was, you know, the good kid that really didn't get into a trouble. Felt a strong sense of wanting to, I'm sure, please my parents, and was definitely perfectionistic. So when I'm at my worst as an adult or as an entrepreneur or as a mom or as a wife, I can get pretty like into overdrive. And, you know, it feels important to pause there and say that like entrepreneurs are just kind of that way too. And I think it's a very unique place to be when you're a business owner or a practice owner, because you genuinely feel passion. You genuinely feel like the mission of what you're doing. You want to do something great. You want to leave a legacy. And so in some ways, what you do, like your work, is connected to the essence of who you are. But I'm sure you probably sat with clients and said, like, you know, what you do is not who you are. But when you're an entrepreneur, it's like, but it kind of is, you know. I love what I'm doing. I love the mission of Millennial Life Counseling. And I have to watch myself, because if I'm not in a place of health and really taking care of me and acting out of alignment and integrity with my functional, you know, adult thinking self, then I can really go off the charts with like people pleasing and trying to make sure like everybody else on the team is good way before me. And I have been in places in my business where like clinicians were making way more money than I was. And I was doing all the things of like a practice owner, like marketing and writing and blogging and interviews and all the sweat equity stuff that, you know, we don't get a paycheck for, but it's definitely worth a lot. And so I've had to pause a lot along the way. And it wasn't always pretty, because when I wasn't in a place of real awareness on these things, like I would kind of be hitting like breaking points. And let's not forget, you know, pandemic, that really changed a lot for me, because I have 2 toddlers at home. And so like our childcare really shifted, and I was kind of freaking out about what was going to happen with our practice and business, and really went into overdrive of like, oh my gosh, everything outside of me has got to be perfect. And I don't even really know in retrospect what the or else was going to be, but it's just, if you're not like aware of these things, you're just off to the races. So, you know, there's a lot of things that have pushed me with this like way that I am, I guess, as kind of stemming as a hero child and wanting to really, really achieve a lot of great things. I've had to just have serious conversations with my husband, with myself, with business coaches of like, what really am I trying to leave in terms of a legacy? Like, do I want to run like a 10 multi-location practice, or am I okay like being where I am and like really soaking this in, because we've got a great thing going right now. And so allowing myself to just like enjoy what already is has been a huge piece of not feeling that need to keep layering on new idea after new idea, expanding, doing. So I hope that makes sense and is kind of resonating for somebody out there, because again, I think hustle culture, it is so real. And if we're not consciously moving through this experience of business ownership, we will get sucked in so fast to feeling like our worth as a business owner is tied to doing more, being more. And I think it's okay to pause and say like, hey, you know what? I'm going to stop right here and enjoy the heck out of this and like love myself, because this is fantastic.
Oh gosh, there's so much of what you're saying that I can relate to, and I'm sure Startup Nation is as well. And I mean, you can hear from the stories and the evolution how you've really had to come head to head with business being a mirror of what's happening. Katie often talks about that, how business really reflects what's happening within yourself personally. And I like how you share some of the specific examples about how this has kind of come up for you and some of the resources that you've had to employ in order to help yourself, number one, become aware of it, and number two, to really work on managing those aspects of yourself, because if not, it can play out in your life, both personally and professionally, in really unproductive and unhealthy ways. And this last concept that you talked about with the culture, with the hustle culture, you know, and how your definition of yourself with being successful in business can kind of snowball and get out of control. And so being able to take that step back and acknowledge where you're at and to be happy with where you are and not just continuing to overwork and overfunction and push yourself beyond your limits. So what is it that really works for you to stay there in that place and acknowledge where you are and to be grateful and accepting of that place that you're in?
Oh, that's a great question. I mean, I think it's a blend of, honestly, not to be a cliche and go back to the title of our podcast, but just continuing to be in that active process of doing my own work. I have to be in a good place of self-awareness. Otherwise, honestly, I think overworking and overdoing becomes like my addiction. It's like I can just be doing stuff all night long. I can come home after a full day of seeing clients and sit down with my husband on the couch and we should be hanging out and connecting or watching TV, decompressing, but I'm like working. I mean, I've done that for years. And I think it's finally being in this place where I see with this different clarity that honestly I've never had. And I don't know if I would have had beyond just kind of having this life experience to now reflect on. But my business from the very beginning, I kind of see in some ways was this process of me feeling like I had to prove myself. Everything was about like, I got to prove myself from this place of insecurity. Because when I first got licensed, I had a couple of really cool opportunities come my way to join on with my supervisor's practice. They were like, hey, there's space here for you. Would have been an incredible experience. There was another practice in town that was like, offered me a position to join on, established couples therapy practice. And I was like, you know what? No, I got to see if I can do this. I've got to like prove this to myself. And I think, I'm not saying that was unhealthy by any means, but for me, I reflect now and I see this pattern of like lots of next steps after that being about, I'm insecure about this, so I've got to prove to me that I can do this. And I think it's built character. I think it's made me who I am. But I'm at this crossroads now where I'm like, you know, I don't have to prove anything to anybody. This business is not about me proving myself to anybody. And that for me very clearly relates back to this hero child concept. Like that little hero inside just feels like she's got to keep proving and proving and proving, and she'll never quite be good enough. And so I've had to get real deep into that process with myself, which nobody can do that for me. It's kind of been this beautiful journey of deepening in this training, which, by the way, the Hawkeye training is really cool because you're learning how to facilitate it with clients, but you're very much doing your own work surrounded by the other therapists that are training in that model. So, I mean, I've been getting in there and like doing my work and facing these things. And having this conversation with this part of me that for the longest time, I didn't even know it was a thing, inner child, like what is that? It's really been transformative. And it's like, okay, so, she doesn't have to steer the ship. I can say no to a new opportunity, or I can say yes to this thing because it feels good to invite help in. I don't have to carry this whole thing on my back by myself because I'm proving something to somebody. So does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. What does it
100%.
mean to you to be successful as an entrepreneur?
What does it mean?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, that's a beautiful question. I got to think about it, honestly. It's like one of those simple questions that you're like, you should know what the answer to that is, right? But I was thinking about something along the lines the other day around this, and I was like, I just saw these words come up in my head of like, enjoy life. And I was thinking about the word embody. Like I've been working a lot with clients to embody themselves. And I'm like, embody, enjoy, like be in joy. Everything should feel exciting. And that doesn't mean there's not hard times. It doesn't mean, growth feels uncomfortable. We all know that as therapists and as business owners, but I want to be like in joy in my business. And I want it to feel like something I'm just excited to get up and do. And I'm thrilled that for the most part, that is how I feel. It's the coolest thing to be like, I don't know if y'all can like curse on this show, but I want to say the holy SHIT, like I made this thing. This is incredible. And there's people here with me that are serving this mission that we have to help this generation have epic relationships, and clients are coming like, whoa. So to just be in joy about those things, I think is success. And it's letting myself just soak it in.
Yeah, I love it. Look, paydays are great, but running payroll, calculating taxes, deduction, compliance, that's not easy. Unless, of course, you have Gusto. Gusto is simple, online payroll and benefits built for small businesses. Gusto automatically files your payroll taxes and directly deposits your and your team's pay. Plus, you can get all kinds of benefits like 401ks, health insurance, workers' comp, and so much more. And guess what? Because you're a listener of the Private Practice Startup, you get 3 months free once you run your first payroll. Head on over to Gusto, gusto.com/PPS as in Private Practice Startup. That's gusto.com/PPS.
Liz, I'm curious how this has kind of affected your family because you're married, you have 2 kids. Just out of curiosity, how old are your children?
Oh, my daughter's about to turn 4 and my son just turned 2.
Okay, so you have your hands full on top of having a group practice and being an entrepreneur. You have a husband, you also have 2 young kids. And as you've been doing this work on yourself and you've found more clarity and you're doing your best to keep yourself in this place of enjoy and embody, like you just talked about so beautifully, how has that affected your time with your family and really what's in your tank to give to them?
Yeah. Well, that part of me, that hero child in there, I can get very hard on myself when I'm not living up to these standards, which can oftentimes be pretty high and pretty perfect in nature around the mom that I am and how I show up with my kids. So I have just, like I said, brought a lot of stuff full circle, and I've had to come to terms with the fact that I will not be the perfect mom. And it's not about blame. I talk with clients about that all the time. This isn't about, yes, some things on our journey are about like rightful reassignment to, who should have been responsible for XYZ and not taking on things as children that we shouldn't have. But I have a pretty good awareness of this stuff. And I still know that I'm going to do some things that are going to influence my kids in negative ways. And giving myself permission to be imperfect and that I can be a model to them for what it looks like to be hardworking, to be driven, but to not be a workaholic, to not neglect them at the sake of my business. I went into private practice because I was like, oh, this will allow me to have a really great work-life balance and just kind of be with my kids all the time. And then I decided it would be a great idea to start a group practice when I was pregnant. So I think it's no coincidence. It's like no coincidence that I've created a business that continues to push me past my growth edges. And I will just that to listeners. It's like there really is a correlation between doing your own internal relational work and the success of your business, or at least having a business that's really aligned for you and in a really healthy place. There's successful businesses that bring in a ton of money, and talk to the owners, they're miserable and they have no relationship to their family because they're gone all the time. Like that won't be me. And I believe I can have a successful, thriving business that leaves a great legacy and be a parent that's present. And I've just learned that that's about developing systems that work for me to provide that. So I think just a lot of like modeling for them what this can look like, and hopefully they'll take away some good things from what they see me and my husband doing.
Yeah. And I mean, I couldn't agree more. It really has to be about building a business that's in alignment with your life and with your ideal schedule, and your ideal life with your family and travel and whatever that looks like for you, because everybody has a different life and different ideals there, but really being in alignment with your values, both personally and professionally. And Liz, I loved everything that you talked about today. It was just so on point. And I want to know, what do you want Startup Nation to take away from your message today?
Probably just that piece of be in alignment and really put a lot of intentional effort into your, dreamlining or vision casting, like the kind of business that you truly want to be in and that you will enjoy and can embody fully as a practice owner. Because I'm telling you, I pushed myself through a lot because I felt like I had to prove a lot. And if I could go back, I would have just been slower and more intentional and a lot more gentle with myself, because it's like once you're kind of in that place of, I know this is possible, others are doing it, I can make this work for me. You have two choices, you can move forward and love yourself along the way and choose growth and like alignment, or you can join on that hustle culture boat and go after the races. And, I'm scared for you if you do that one. Just kidding.
Well, it's been a joy to have you on our episode today. And I hope Startup Nation enjoyed this and is really just taking a moment to reflect on their life, their business, and making sure that it's in alignment. And also, continuing to do that work, the inner work that is so important along this entrepreneurial journey. So thank you so much, Liz, for being here with us. And I just want to take a moment for our Startup Nation superhero shout out for today's episode. And this comes from Monica. Monica says, the Private Practice Startup Podcast is phenomenal. So much inspiration and doable advice and strategies to help grow your business. I'm taking the Private Practice Marketing e-course that they offer right now, and I'm learning so much. If you're trying to grow your private practice, listening to the podcast and taking their course will jumpstart you in all the right directions. Monica, that's awesome. We're here cheering you on from the sidelines, and we're so delighted to hear that the podcast and the e-course have been super helpful for you. So Startup Nation, we will look forward to seeing you on the next episode. And in the meantime, we encourage you to subscribe, rate, and review our show. Share with your friends and fellow colleagues, and we will look forward to seeing you on the next episode. Take care, everybody.
Thanks for joining us on The Private Practice Startup. Visit theprivatepracticestartup.com for awesome resources, free trainings, attorney-approved private practice paperwork, and so much more.